Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure and an honor for me to stand before you this morning and just tell you how the financial institutions or banks are basically participating in supporting the growth for SMEs. The first thing I want to do is basically congratulate you all, because by virtue of your being here demonstrates that you are doing something right, and you just need to keep doing that more and more. And I know that the banking institution is very critical towards enabling you. As the statistics showed earlier, that banking institutions definitely play a very important role in terms of access to financing for expanding your businesses. So I will just take you briefly through what the banking institutions are basically doing in partnership with yourselves, and see how it is that we can work better going into the future as you project to go into the Club 101. But before I start my presentation, I will just take you through a short article that I read probably in the last week or two. And it's a very unique article because it's very eye-opening and to a great extent reflects what you have been able to overcome. There is an insect that is called a bumblebee. And I guess a good number of us know what a bumblebee is. It's a little chubby, it's round, it's very similar to a bee, but a lot more heavier. And the laws of aerodynamics state that a bumblebee cannot fly. Its body weight is so huge compared to its wingspan. But you know what? Every day, a bumblebee wakes up and flies around happily into its destiny. It defies the laws of aerodynamics. Why is that so? I have one answer for that. I don't know if there is any other answer. The basic answer for that is because the bumblebee does not know. It has no idea that its wings cannot carry its weight. And so when I look at yourselves and the odds that are stacked up against you, you have been able to defy the laws of aerodynamics to be in the position that you are today. You have been able to overcome many challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis, be it access to finance, be it infrastructure, be it regulation. Many things have come up against you, theft, insecurity. There are very many things that are stacked up against you. But guess what? You have carried on with a resilience that is amazing, and hence the reason that you are in this category today. So bear in mind that by your being here, you are already winners, and makes my job very easy is just how to show you how we can continue to partner together in your journey towards greater success. I've made a very short presentation. It's basically about 8 slides, so I won't take too much time this morning. But, the first slide basically covers economic improvement, creating greater opportunities as a bank, and what is it that we are doing. The first thing that I recognize is that our economy is expected to grow by about 6.3 to 6.8% in the period running up to 2012. If you look at the graph that I have put on there, it shows that in the past we have actually recorded significant growth in GDP in the past. We've hit a record high of 7.1 in 2007. Then there was a big slump that came there after 2008, 2009 for various reasons, including we could blame it on the recession, we could blame it on the political turbulent environment that we have experienced. But now we are on a growth curve. And I believe that already, as you have demonstrated with your businesses and the way that you have responded to the questionnaires, is that you forecast that your businesses will continue to grow into the future. And that's a good story, which we must push on. I believe Kenyans are very resilient. We have been known to be very aggressive in terms of growing our businesses, never giving up. So we expect that indeed there will be continued growth into the future. The other thing that we forecast is that with the establishment of the East African Protocol, this will basically boost trade for companies within Kenya, but also for companies within the region. And in keeping with the theme of this conference today, one market, greater growth opportunities, you now have access to a population of in excess of 130 million shillings, 130 billion people, which is an amazing number. It just shows how great the opportunities are. Now the question is, how will you tap into that on a greater basis? There is definitely a need for increased partnership between the private and public entities towards developing infrastructure, which is part of the Vision 2030 strategy. There is definitely a lot of scope for private entities to contribute in a greater extent in these growth opportunities that are there. And then going beyond the East African region, there are markets like China, India, the Middle East, and some selected African countries which present opportunities for you. And I think, as you will see later on in the presentation, there is a lot of interaction amongst you business people, especially along the trade lines, with markets like China, India, and many other markets in the Middle East. So it just shows that there is a lot of potential for growth. Of course, the discovery of oil in African countries, sometimes that could be considered a blessing, but can also be a challenge. The tension and the strife that normally comes when there is access to oil. But we must look at it as a positive thing as we look forward. I understand that there is oil that's probably been discovered in Uganda, in Ghana, and Angola. So this is just neighboring countries. And I hope that this will present opportunity for rapid expansion within the private entities that we run. And basically, I will cover what the banks are doing, how we are playing towards supporting the small and medium enterprises. And I think small is somewhat a misnomer, because by the time you are doing turnovers of 70 million all the way to 1 billion shillings, that's a respectable size company. It's not really a micro, small business. It is a growing company. And the growth rates that you have basically shown in your businesses show that you're no longer really a small company, but you're more medium towards corporate. And so, what are we doing in that space? One of the things that we are doing is financing. As the statistics have shown, is that financing is one of those key enablers for growth. So we are basically investing in developing new products, developing our staff to be able to understand your needs and be able to support you in your business so that you have access to the right product to assist your business as you grow. So financing continues to be one key element that must be continued to be churned into the economy to be able to succeed and grow. I think statistics have also shown that the banking industry has continued to grow in leaps and bounds. Why has that growth come? It's because your businesses continue to be running well. I know possibly we've taken a bigger pie of it, but with time, I believe as your businesses continue to grow, there will be a reciprocation that will happen in that specific area. Linkage with international and regional markets. This is very critical, and this is very important for yourselves. A bank like Standard Chartered has presence in the region, in Uganda, Tanzania, and going even to countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Botswana, etc. And then also into India, Middle East, Hong Kong, Singapore, all these places. And because we are recognizing that we are quickly becoming a global village, it is important that you have access to financing across the region. We are not only looking at Kenya as one basic place, but we are looking at the world as one global village. Cash management solution, being able to manage your liquidity across the regions is also becoming very critical, and what we have done around developing that. The other thing is expert financial advisory. I think this is a high growth area whereby medium-sized companies like yourselves will basically benefit in terms of what advisory services from a financial perspective are available to you. And then also we are in a position to finance buyouts, mergers, acquisitions. We've already begun to see that in the financial institution where banks are coming together with to form mergers. And the basic benefit that would come to you is economies of scale. So maybe there will be companies that will be able to grow, be it in pharmaceuticals, be it in manufacturing, various spheres. And I've already begun seeing companies come together and say, hey, we are better if we work together because there are synergies and there are economies of scale when we work together instead of each of us competing in our own small scopes. So what are we doing as Standard Chartered? And this obviously has taken a tangent because Standard Chartered is indeed a sponsor for this initiative, and we have done that for the last year or two. So if you look at the graphics there, the two people who are looking up and pointing into the skies, we are basically saying that the horizon, look into the future, and the future is bright, which is in keeping with the graphs that we have seen, that indeed GDP growth and your growth opportunities are also facing in that direction. So we are basically saying is that we will seize success with complete business solutions. It's not just skewed towards basic, tiny little things, but it's complete. We are holistic in our discussions. How are we doing that? Standard Chartered is basically committed to helping your business by providing you key financial partnership and tailor-made solutions. I think the financial market in the local environment is beginning to grow to the standards to match international standards, providing not just the basic structures that have been available in the past, which is overdrafts and loans and basic products, but we are going on towards facilitating imports and export trade, providing structures that are beneficial to you as a business so that you can be able to reach out beyond the region. Of course, there is a need for dedicated relationship managers. In the past, the bank has sat back and waited for you as business people to come to us. But now the tide has changed. I believe that a good majority of you can say that maybe even in the last month, you have seen 3-4 bankers from different banks coming to solicit business from you. It's basically a clear demonstration of the turning of the tide, where we are saying that indeed the business owner is in the driver's seat. And so we recognize the need for a dedicated relationship manager who can invest time in understanding what your business needs are and growing in line with your business as your advocate. And of course, utilizing our international network, which I have already spoken about. So what networking opportunities are available to you today within the banking industry, but more specifically within Standard Chartered? We have launched what we call a TradeLink Club. And what is this TradeLink Club? It's basically a business club which gives opportunity to business owners to enjoy various benefits, one of which is capacity building. What is capacity building? We are providing on a quarterly basis training and networking seminars for business owners. There will be one running in the next 2 weeks actually. But what does this basically do? It avails learning opportunities to business people such that there is a transfer of best practice from one business to another. You do not need to struggle with how do I keep my financial records? How do I improve my HR function? How do I improve my operating environment? This knowledge is available within this room. Why don't we provide an opportunity for you to interact and say, how have you handled this? How can I improve my business? With that, there will be an acceleration in your growth and being in a position to keep away the detractors from your core business. One partnership that we have is with the IFC, who have come along with us and said we will provide that kind of training. We have solicited partnerships with selected companies, and this list is a growing list where we are saying if you're a member of the TradeLink Club, you will have preferential rates with Qatar, you will have preferential rates with DHL, and that list is basically growing with people where you can enjoy discounts as a member of the TradeLink Club. Preferential pricing in terms of loans, cost of finance is indeed a key concern to many businesses. So being a member of the club basically enables you to have preferential rates from a pricing perspective of loans and overdrafts, as well as getting forex rates which are competitive. We recognize that a lot of your business is beginning to go outside of Kenya as one economy, but you're targeting the export markets. You're targeting the import market. So one of the key issues that, and maybe a concern for you, is how do we address our foreign exchange exposure? Internet banking, and it's something that I'll touch on briefly to a greater extent later, is we are acknowledging that a lot of businesses have embraced and acknowledged that there is a place for technology. IT is key, and people are saying, provide internet banking for us. You no longer have to need to come to the bank. And then business trips to places like China, which is a target place for growth for many businesses, places like South Africa maybe. Business trips will be facilitated within this club to enable you to visit these markets and learn from what they are doing to accelerate growth in your businesses. And then, of course, we are providing a gateway for the Middle East, China, East Africa as a whole, providing borderless banking, basically saying that you're no longer limited to the borders of this country. And we are providing also promotions in various ways, like, for example, free telegraphic transfers to other Standard Chartered banks worldwide, basically. So those are some of the networking opportunities that you have as a business. Now, this is basic stuff that you already know, is a basic range of products that are available, but is not only limited to this, but to many other products that are available to you as business owners to be able to advance your business from a financing perspective. Trade and working capital. We have a very premier product which is called loans against properties. And I'll just talk briefly about this one because it's very interesting, and I think many other players in the market have not yet done that. This basic, and this is loans against property, what we have basically done is innovated a product where you say, I do not yet have financials for my business, or I don't want to provide financials for my business for one or two reasons, but look at my account turnover, the operations of my account. Look at the turnover that comes in and out. Then also, I am providing you with a collateral to secure my advance. On that basis, make a credit judgment and a decision as to what amount of money you can lend me as a business. That model has been a phenomenal product for many businesses. Look at my turnover, look at my security that I'm offering as a bank, to the bank, and gauge what kind of facility is available. So this is a product that is really well accepted by our customers. Mortgages, overdrafts, foreign exchange. We're talking not only about spot rates, but also foreign currency forwards. The forward transactions basically cover you against fluctuation in the currency. I think last year or the year before, we saw the dollar move from about 62 shillings to almost 80 in a very short period of time. And there were a lot of customers that were affected, a lot of businesses that were affected by that fluctuation, and it can go for or against you. So you are able to lock in Forex forwards that covers you against that fluctuation. And then, of course, you know the standard vanilla trade products, which include guarantees, bonds, performance bonds, letters of credit. So this is not really new stuff for you, but just to alert you that this is available and you should be speaking to your bank about, and I prefer that be Standard Chartered, that you will speak about these various products that are available. Let's talk briefly about our cash management solutions that are available to you as business owners. It is important, and as I think it was Philip who spoke earlier about cash being king. It is very true. If your business does not generate cash to be able to meet your requirements or your financial commitments on an ongoing basis, then you will have a problem. The business will basically come to a close or a halt. So we have designed a product, a premier product, which is called Straight to Bank, which is our internet banking solution. It's top of the range. It provides you with guaranteed security because you're provided with a token which randomly provides you an access code. And I see some people nodding in the room because I think they have had an experience and exposure to that particular product. And it gives you a wide range of reports which are available. It can enable you to do your financial reporting, your reconciliation in terms of your cash book as well as your bank balances. It enables you to process your payroll. You can actually do and process your payroll right from the comfort of your office, do the transfers either within the bank or outside of the bank. It provides you the ability to do electronic funds transfer, and these can be even to your suppliers. If you have the financial information from your suppliers, you have information on their bank accounts, bank name, and etc., you're able to do that remittance to the bank. And also, it enables you to do foreign currency dealing from the comfort of your office. Very powerful tool, very innovative, very beneficial. It saves you the time of having to come to the bank. You can actually do it from the comfort of your office or your home, not only here in Kenya, but in the region wherever you may be. Another product that's available is cash management in terms of collection of cash and documents from your offices or back to your office. You can actually make a request to the bank to deliver cash to your office, and the bank can basically do that. And that's an enhancement of our cash management offering. And then, of course, mobile banking, which many of you are already aware of. M-Pesa, Zap, that kind of thing. Linking with the bank to be able to do those kind of transactions. This will tend to be low-value payments, but that's also available from the banking environment. 2 more slides, this one and the next one, and then we'll be done. What support is available from the bank? As I mentioned earlier, we are consistently investing in our relationship managers. These tend to be the frontline staff who will come to see you in your offices, to discuss what your needs are, to understand your business, to understand your growth. It is critical that you are free and open to the bank to express what your growth objectives are so that the bank can partner with you. Many times what has happened, I think in the past, has been a business owner says, I want to now do a commercial building, and they possibly did not communicate that to the bank, and money begins to be channeled out of the business into the commercial building, and what does it do? It strains your cash flows. And you come to a situation where you're always straining in terms of your bank facility and bank limits. Once you come to the bank actually says, hey, we could actually have provided that finance. So I think it's important that that discussion continues on an ongoing basis with the relationship managers to be able to provide you with a solution ahead of time. I mentioned about our foreign currency trading, which is available. We are also rolling out SME centers, which are dedicated centers that will provide service to you on a preferential service. Rather than having your staff or yourself queue in the banking hall, you are able to access SME centers, dedicated centers, because we recognize the value that you represent in the economy and also in the bank. Of course, access to priority centers as well. Now, this is for you as individuals, for your own personal transactions. We have an offering where we provide you access to the to priority centers so that you don't spend too much or waste too much time in the banks. And then, of course, as your business continues to grow, and I think the challenge has already been provided in terms of the growth that we want for 11 people within this room to actually go into Club 101. Those type of relationships will tend to grow and outgrow the SME sector. We have a very elaborate corporate banking or wholesale banking segment which can now take up your requirements and take you up to the next level, where you may be looking at listing in the stock exchange, you may be looking at rolling out a bond into the market, capital market kind of transactions. We do have that available. So in summary, we are basically saying that there are a lot of opportunities that are available in the SME sector. We recognize that. We cannot underpin it. We have to give you the opportunity to grow, because that's where employment will come from. That's where growth will come from in this economy. Secondly, we are saying that we have an international network. We have superior technological platforms in terms of our straight-to-bank and many other internet solutions that are available to you. And then lastly, Standard Chartered is committed to enabling SMEs to tap into the full potential and opportunities that are available to you, not only here, but also in the region. So do feel free to keep talking to us. Our contacts will be available. so that on an ongoing basis you can speak to us as a bank and ask us how can we partner together to be able to access the capital that you may require to grow your business to the next level. We have a booth out there, so feel free to pop by and take a business card, take our brochures, and good luck in the gala dinner tomorrow, the award ceremony, and we hope that we will be able to interact some more. So thank you very much.
Is there anyone with a burning question for Humphrey before he leaves the stage? I'm willing to take 2 questions. There's one right here.
My name is Mukesh Desai. I'm the director of Praful Chandra. Why is that, in spite of CBK telling the banks to reduce the interest rates, the banks, especially Standard Bank and Barclays Bank, don't follow suit? That's why you see the results of the bank, all the banks making super profits, and the business is suffering for that.
I will not seek to win that debate. The odds are stacked up against me. But what my basic response would be is that interest rates in the market are indeed negotiable. Never be in a situation where you believe or feel that rates are not negotiable. There are various parameters that come into play when deciding the rate that is chargeable to any customer, be it the quantum of the facility, the length of the relationship, the ancillary income that may come out of that relationship. So there are various factors that come into play. But also in addition to that, we recognize that it is a competitive environment. There are about 43 odd banks in this market. So no one bank can basically sit pretty and say, those are our rates, it doesn't matter. My response to you is that banks consistently, on a continual basis, continue to review their interest rates and have those discussions with their customers to be in a position to actually say, this indeed is a competitive rate from our perspective. So, and it should be mutually agreed. There should never be a situation where there is one winner. It's a mutual. We don't want to have a situation where banks are overcharging customers. And I think it also needs to be borne into the context of even what's happening in our neighboring countries as well. In countries like Uganda, the rates are around about 20% or thereabout. So when you look at the local environment, we have a bit of an advantage in terms of the rates are lower here. But that notwithstanding, there is always scope to relook at interest rates on an ongoing basis. So that's the response I'd provide to you. One of my bosses one time told me that if you have no other complaints from a customer apart from the interest rates, then you're doing a fantastic job. If a customer does not complain about the charges, it means you're underpricing them, or it means that you probably have the wrong customer because they're not looking at their costs. So it's an ongoing debate that will not be addressed today, will not be addressed in the next 1 year or in the next 2 years. There will always be that give and take that goes on an ongoing basis. So thank you for that question. It's a very good question.
Just to add on that, we as businessmen or even anybody buying a house or something like, we feel that the banks at present, when we see the balance sheets and there is a profit of 30, 40, 50% more than last year. We see you as oil companies who raise the price within 1 second, but to lower it down, it takes a month or 2 months or pressurize from a CBK or something like that. I think you should be more customer friendly, and especially the banks like you and Barclays, who are the controlling banks, which is what is said in Kenya. that you are sort of, if you put your rates down, the other banks follow suit. So, I mean, you should look into it as, I mean, your shareholders must be very happy.
Thank you for that comment. Be one more question?
Thank you. My name is Professor Gott from UNES Limited. One of the things we do is we do an extremely large number of EFTs. We've also been trying to get our suppliers to accept EFTs. The problem we have found is that it's actually cheaper to write a check than do an EFT, which is surprising given that we would love to do EFTs. And all the banks we deal with give us one excuse or another why the EFT price must remain at what it is. Second is that suppliers are then charged to receive an EFT. And so they therefore also prefer to receive checks. So in as much as we're talking about technology and internet banking, I think there's a pricing barrier to allow better adoption of some of these technologies because of the pricing structure that is there. So I was wondering if we have a comment on that.
Yep, I do have a response to that. I think, and I will not seek to be defensive, but I will try and elaborate some of the costs that go towards some of the benefits that you would get in actually having an EFT as opposed to using a check. The clearing period for a check is around about 4 days, thereabout. That duration of time where a check is actually clearing, there is a cost to that. So don't just look at the cost of the check leaf, which may be something like a shilling or 5 shillings, whatever it is, but also look at the duration of time that a business may be out of pocket because of the clearing cycle. So there is a larger, many companies will tend to say, give me my money now, let me incur the 100 shillings, 150 shillings EFT cost, but I get my money now, as opposed to waiting for another 4 days because they will be able to churn and use that money a lot quicker than having to wait for a check to clear. So there is a bit of a twist to the answer. It's not just the basic cost of the check leaf. There is also the benefit that comes to a business in being able to access the money quicker. And hence the reason why, like for example, the central bank really advocated for us to be able to do, for businesses to actually do RTGS, real-time gross settlement, which is same-day value for currencies or for payments in excess of 1 million shillings. There is a benefit to that. There is a cost to it, true, because there's technology and all of that that goes behind it, but also there is a benefit in being able to address or access that financing or that cash today. Another thing is, again, you receive a check, and then after 4 days, it's actually returned unpaid for whatever reason. Maybe there was. So you also save yourself that challenge. Once an EFT is done, it's actually done. So as a businessman, you know the payment will actually be received. So it gives you that additional comfort. So there is a bit of broader benefits beyond just the actual cost of that particular transaction, and you must force yourself to look at it from that perspective. And you may actually say, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do the EFT as well. Thank you very much. One last one? Yeah. Okay, one last one.
Hi. I empathize with you, but
Thank
I completely disagree with you on behalf of the wider audience here. I think you've got a very difficult job. But for me, this is about capitalism, guys. If you think the banks are ripping you off, start a bank. And that's capitalism. So you can charge these fees. And in South Africa, it's an identical story. But when I look at Sage in the wider context, internationally, America, UK, all that kind of stuff, the bank charges are a fraction of what they are in Africa. So I just think this is about maturing of the market. And you guys can charge these fees because the customers are letting you charge these fees. But when you tell me about technology and clearing early, I thought technology is supposed to make businesses more efficient and drop prices. But if I was in your position, I don't think I could give a better answer.
Thank you, sir. As I say, the odds are stacked up against me, so I appreciate that feedback. But I guess as this economy continues to develop and grow, because even those developed markets were at some point getting that kind of margin in terms of their pricing. But with time, there is always that pressure to synchronize and to be a lot more innovative. I think there are a lot of inefficiencies that are still there in our systems that cause for banks to charge what they do. And I'm not basically acknowledging that we are expensive, no. But I'm basically saying that as the market continues to evolve, as the market continues to grow and expand, we will be able to have a situation where we have economies of scale and say, hey, rather than do banking for 100 SMEs, we now have 100,000 SMEs, so we can actually transfer that benefit to our customers. So it is coming. I think one last question.
The banks in this market for the mortgage financing, I think the tenure for which they give the loan is 12, 15, or perhaps might be 20 years. Why doesn't grant loan for a longer period like overseas and maybe at a lesser rate of interest? Because there is a huge demand of medium cost housing in this country, and construction is basically a key industry of all other industries. If construction is growing blindly, you can say the economy is doing well. So in this direction, what your bank is planning to do, or is it planning to do anything at all?
I will answer that question in two or three parts. One is that the fact is that when you are actually accessing long-term funding, it's important for a bank to recognize, even from a regulatory perspective, that they also have the backing to finance that long-term funding. You have to match your short-term liquidity to your short-term lending, and your short-term and your long-term lending also to your long-term deposits. And I know institutions have been looking for innovative ways to address that mismatch, because what I'd be lending to you on a 20-year basis, on a 20-year plan, is basically money that can be withdrawn by yourself as a business tomorrow. So we recognize that there is a risk in actually extending long-term tenor. So some of the solutions that have been provided, and I can talk specifically about Standard Chartered, is that the group company, the parent company, has on an ongoing basis in the past and even now provided that kind of long-term funding. So we are no longer reliant on the short-term deposits that are available from our local environment, but knowing that we have a fund that's been provided from a group perspective towards financing long-term investment in mortgages. The second thing that I also want to say is that when a bank is providing long-term funding, one of the determinants in terms of how long you can go is also about the age of a particular customer, for example. And so there is an outer limit beyond which there is a retirement. So you must also bear in mind, so how long does this person potentially continue to earn to be able to pay for that loan? So there is some place where you come to a limit and say, 20 years as a maximum. Depending on, guys like me, maybe 50, I will be told, sorry, you can only do it for 10 years because of, I can only earn for another 10 years. So there are those kind of things that limit us in terms of what we can do. We may not come up tomorrow and say, we'll provide you a 50-year loan because, you may not be working in 50 years. So that in itself provides at least an idea as to why we have that limit. Yeah. So thank you very much. All the best.